Before his untimely death, Sal Mineo, once a Hollywood teen idol, dropped a revelation that stunned the industry: the secret names of gay actors he had dated in an era when such truths could destroy careers. His story is not just about fame and glamour, but about hidden struggles in a world ruled by prejudice. Mineo, remembered for his haunting role as Plato in Rebel Without a Cause, lived bravely yet painfully between the spotlight and the shadows. What began as a promising rise to stardom soon became a battle against discrimination, secrecy, and scandal. And in his final days, the secrets he revealed shook Hollywood to its core, leaving behind both admiration and controversy. From a coffin maker's son to a rising star, Salvatore Mineo Jr. was born on January 10, 1939, in New York City, to Sicilian immigrant parents. His father, a coffin maker, gave the family a modest but eerie connection to the fate that awaited Sal years later. His mother, however, recognized her son's spark early and pushed him into dance and acting classes, determined to give him a chance beyond the working-class grind. With dark, expressive eyes, a magnetic smile, and natural stage presence, young Sal quickly captured attention. By the time most kids were still in grade school, he was already stepping onto TV sets and theater stages. The boy who once practiced lines in cramped apartments was now preparing to enter an entertainment world full of promise and hidden dangers. The role that changed everything. By the time Sal Mineo was barely 10 years old, he was already appearing on local television, singing, dancing, and proving himself a natural performer. Yet, as a boy of Sicilian descent, he often faced subtle discrimination. Hollywood at the time favored all-American looks and names, not dark-haired kids from immigrant families. Despite these obstacles, Sal's big break came in 1955 with Rebel Without a Cause. Cast as Plato, a sensitive and troubled teenager, Sal brought a raw vulnerability to the screen that audiences had never seen before. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination at just 16 years old, instantly catapulting him into the spotlight as one of Hollywood's most promising young actors. Plato was more than just a role. It was one of cinema's earliest coded depictions of a gay character, though carefully veiled under the strict moral codes of the era. In Sal's haunted eyes and tender devotion to James Dean's character, viewers saw something deeper. For the first time, youth rebellion, hidden desire, and cultural change collided on screen, and Sal Mineo stood at the center. Behind the spotlight, Sal Mineo and Nicholas Ray. Success came quickly for young Sal Mineo, but so did the shadows of Hollywood. During the filming of Rebel Without a Cause, he developed a complicated bond with director Nicholas Ray, an influential figure nearly 3 decades older. Ray had reportedly shaped the character of Plato after his own son, and his fascination with Sal went beyond professional admiration. Rumors swirled that Ray harbored sexual intentions toward the teenage actor, blurring the line between mentorship and exploitation. For Sal, it was an early and painful lesson. In Hollywood, power often came with dangerous strings attached. Behind the glowing reviews and award buzz, Mineo was already confronting the darker realities of an industry where innocence was too easily taken advantage of. Sal Mineo's hidden loves, the secret romances that shook Hollywood. Behind the fame, the applause, and the adoring headlines, Sal Mineo carried a secret life, one filled with hidden romances that Hollywood of the 1950s and 1960s wasn't ready to accept. At a time when being openly gay could destroy careers, Sal's love life unfolded in whispers, secret meetings, and late-night rendezvous. In his final years, when he revealed the names of men he had quietly loved, the revelations sent shockwaves through an industry built on carefully crafted images. James Dean, a love cut. Short Sal's closest and most painful relationship was with James Dean, his co-star in Rebel Without a Cause. On screen, their chemistry was undeniable, but off-screen it deepened into something far more intimate. Sal admitted he was deeply in love with Dean, recalling secret late-night encounters and moments that went far beyond friendship. Dean, with his rebellious aura and magnetic presence, was rumored to be bisexual, which made their connection both thrilling and dangerous. Yet their romance was tragically brief. Weeks before the film's release, Dean was killed in a car crash, leaving Sal devastated. He later confessed that losing Dean felt like losing a part of his soul. The grief haunted him for years, shaping both his career choices and his willingness to live more openly, despite the consequences. Bobby Sherman, a scandalous affair. Another chapter in Sal's hidden love life involved Bobby Sherman, a young actor and rising teen idol. At the time, Sherman was confused about his sexuality, and Sal became both his guide and his lover. Their affair was filled with passion but also secrecy, with love letters exchanged and discreet meetings carefully arranged away from the public eye. The romance, however, carried heavy costs. Sal's fiancée, actress Jill Howarth, reportedly broke off their engagement after learning of the affair, sparking rumors that damaged his public image. Sherman would go on to become a mainstream star, while Sal's career dimmed further in the shadow of scandal and suspicion. Paul Newman. Admiration turned heartache. During the filming of Exodus in 1960, Sal formed a close bond with Hollywood legend Paul Newman. Known for his striking blue eyes and perfect family man image, Newman was admired by millions. But behind closed doors, he and Sal shared secret meetings. For Sal, Newman was both a mentor and a romantic partner, someone he looked up to and loved. But while Sal's feelings ran deep, Newman reportedly viewed the connection as fleeting, something that could never be public. This unbalanced relationship left Sal heartbroken. Worse, any rumor of an affair threatened not just Sal's career, but Newman's carefully protected reputation as a masculine icon. Marlon Brando, a volatile connection. Then came Marlon Brando, the enigmatic powerhouse of American cinema. Brando, too, was known to live outside sexual norms, and he and Sal reportedly shared discreet dates. Their relationship, however, was anything but stable. Arguments, breakups, and reconciliations marked their time together, leaving Sal emotionally drained. While Brando may have understood Sal's struggles more than most, he was also a man who thrived on control and mystery, and the volatility of their connection left scars that Sal carried long after. Other rumored romances whispers in Hollywood also linked Sal to actor Anthony Perkins, best known for his chilling role in Psycho, and Brandon DeWilde, a rising star of the era. While details remain vague, the rumors added fuel to the gossip surrounding Sal's personal life, making him both a subject of fascination and suspicion in an industry obsessed with image. Courtney Burr, Love Amid the Storm. Amid the turmoil, one relationship brought Sal genuine stability: his partnership with acting coach Courtney Burr. Lasting 6 years, it was his most enduring romance. They lived together, shared their lives, and supported one another as Sal's career faltered under the weight of prejudice. Burr provided Sal with the comfort and loyalty he had long been denied in Hollywood's secretive world. Yet even this sincere relationship became fodder for scandal after Sal's tragic death. When the press twisted it into tabloid headlines instead of recognizing it as the love that had sustained him. For Sal Mineo, love was never simple. Each romance carried joy and passion, but also risk and heartbreak. The men he loved were often icons themselves, trapped by Hollywood's demands for perfection and secrecy. In revealing these hidden romances before his death, Sal shattered the illusion of Hollywood's flawless facade, exposing a truth both painful and brave. His story reminds us that behind the brightest lights often lie the deepest shadows, and that sometimes the greatest courage is simply to love honestly in a world that refuses to understand. Triumphs, typecasting, and the battles that defined his career. After the explosive success of Rebel Without a Cause, Sal Mineo seemed destined for greatness. Hollywood was already dubbing him the next big star, and he quickly proved his range in subsequent films. In 1956, he appeared in Giant alongside James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor, once again showcasing his ability to embody complex, emotionally charged characters. Just a few years later, in 1960, he starred in Exodus as Dov Landau, a Jewish Holocaust survivor. The role was both daring and deeply personal. His portrayal of a young man who had endured sexual abuse by Nazi soldiers stunned audiences. For his performance, Sal earned his second Academy Award nomination, cementing his reputation as a gifted actor who could bring raw vulnerability to the screen. Yet even as the accolades piled up, Hollywood's darker currents were already working against him. Because of his Italian heritage, Mineo was repeatedly typecast into ethnic roles. Gang members, delinquents, outsiders. He became known as the Switchblade Kid, a nickname that followed him long after he'd outgrown the teen rebel image. Unlike other actors of immigrant descent, Sal refused to change his name to something more American in order to fit the studio mold. This choice, though courageous, only reinforced the industry's prejudice and kept him locked into roles that limited his career growth. Still, Mineo was more than just an actor. He had an undeniable charisma as a performer, and in 1957 he released the single Start Moving. The song became a huge hit, climbing the charts and selling over 1 million copies. His musical career blossomed briefly, with other singles like Lasting Love and Party Time capturing the rock and roll energy of the era. With his open-collared shirts, warm tenor voice, and magnetic stage presence, Sal made teenage girls swoon in the same way Elvis Presley and Ricky Nelson did. At just 18, he even earned an Emmy nomination for a television role, proving his versatility across mediums. For a time, it looked as though Mineo could conquer both Hollywood and the music charts. But the late 1950s brought a shift. Rumors about his sexuality began to circulate, and the prejudice of the time closed more doors than it opened. Casting directors began to shy away, unsure of how to market a young star whose personal life didn't fit the carefully crafted heterosexual image demanded by the studios. By the early 1960s, Sal was struggling to find meaningful roles. Instead of hiding, Mineo made one of his boldest statements. In 1962, he posed nude for Harold Stevenson's monumental painting, The New Adam, a massive artwork that celebrated the male body and was dubbed by the press as the world's largest nude. To some, it was a shocking and even reckless move. To Sal, it was a declaration of identity and artistic freedom, but it also pushed him further to the margins of Hollywood, as major studios now considered him too controversial to hire. When the doors of film began to close, Mineo turned to the stage. In the late 1960s, he directed and produced the play Fortune and Men's Eyes, a gritty prison drama that confronted themes of homosexuality and sexual abuse head-on. The production was raw, unsettling, and highly controversial, but it was also a critical success. Starring a young Don Johnson, the play forced audiences to confront realities Hollywood avoided, and it allowed Sal to reclaim creative control over his career. For Sal Mineo, the highs and lows of his career mirrored the tension of his personal life. Moments of brilliance overshadowed by prejudice, courage met with punishment. He was a man who refused to compromise his heritage, his artistry, or his identity, even when it cost him dearly. And though Hollywood often tried to push him into the shadows, his resilience kept him on stage, on screen, and in the hearts of those who saw in him something far greater than the roles he was forced to play. Sal Mineo breaks the silence, coming out in a fearful Hollywood. By the early 1970s, Sal Mineo had endured years of gossip, typecasting, and rejection. But instead of hiding, he made a choice that few dared at the time. He spoke openly about his sexuality. In a 1972 interview with writer Bose Hadley, Sal declared with a wry smile, I have a girl in every port, and a few boys in every port. With that single line, he became one of the first Hollywood actors to publicly acknowledge being bisexual. Mineo didn't stop there. He openly criticized the hypocrisy of Hollywood, pointing out that many gay actors hid behind sham marriages or bisexual labels just to survive. Half the gays here pretend to be bi, he said, but it's a survival issue. Some don't have the courage to say they're gay. His words peeled back the curtain on an industry built on illusions, where truth was often punished and secrecy was rewarded. Though his candor likely cost him even more opportunities, it also cemented him as a pioneer. At a time when silence was the norm, Sal Mineo's honesty painted a vivid picture of a hidden Hollywood and gave voice to those who couldn't yet speak for themselves. The night Hollywood lost Sal Mineo, a death shrouded in mystery. On the evening of February 12, 1976, Sal Mineo returned home from a play rehearsal in Los Angeles. At just 37 years old, he was beginning to rebuild his career, with a promising stage role and plans to direct his first film. But within minutes of parking his car and walking toward his apartment, his life ended in tragedy. An assailant attacked him near the garage, delivering a fatal stab wound directly to the heart. Neighbors heard his cries for help, but by the time paramedics arrived, the once rising star of Rebel Without a Cause was gone. The crime scene offered no clear answers. Sal's wallet, jewelry, and cash remained untouched, ruling out robbery. Yet instead of focusing on the brutality of the murder, the media immediately spun the story into a lurid scandal. Nude photographs found in his home were sensationalized, and headlines branded him as a gay star slain, reducing his legacy to salacious gossip rather than celebrating his talent. A year later, a man named Lionel Ray Williams was convicted of the murder after his wife testified that he returned home bloody and bragged about killing Sal. Williams, however, was black, while witnesses at the scene described the attacker as white or Latino with curly or blonde hair, details that didn't match the convicted man. He served only 10 years of his 50-year sentence, leaving the case clouded with contradictions. To this day, theories abound. Some believe Sal was mistaken for someone else in a botched drug deal. Others suggest he stumbled upon criminal activity in West Hollywood, an area notorious for gangs and narcotics. Still others point to the possibility of a serial killer, noting similar stabbings in the neighborhood around the same time. What remains certain is that Sal Mineo's death was as haunting and mysterious as the roles he once played. It silenced a courageous voice, just as he was finding his footing again, leaving behind more questions than answers, and a legacy forever marked by injustice. Sal Mineo's enduring legacy, a voice, ahead of its time. When Sal Mineo's life was cut short in 1976, he was on the verge of a creative rebirth, preparing to direct his first feature film. His death robbed Hollywood of an artist who had only begun to reclaim his voice. Yet, in many ways, his legacy outlived the tragedy. Mineo is remembered not just as Plato from Rebel Without a Cause, but as one of the first actors in Hollywood to live authentically, despite knowing the price. He once declared, "It will change a lot in the future if gay actors come out. We're here and we're staying." Those words, radical in the 1970s, echo with truth today. In an era when being openly queer could mean career suicide, Mineo's courage paved the way for later generations. Stars like Elliot Page and Kristen Stewart now walk paths that Mineo helped clear, paths toward authenticity, acceptance, and representation. Though silenced too soon, Sal Mineo's voice continues to inspire, reminding us that honesty, no matter the cost, can change the future. Beyond Plato, Sal Mineo's forgotten roles and musical talents. While Rebel Without a Cause defined Sal Mineo's career, it was far from his only achievement. In the years that followed, he carved out a surprisingly diverse body of work, even if Hollywood often kept him in the box of the ethnic outsider. In Crime in the Streets, 1956, he played a volatile street teen, a role that captured the restlessness of post-war youth and cemented his reputation as the Switchblade Kid. That same year, he starred alongside Paul Newman in Somebody Up There Likes Me, portraying a young boxer caught between ambition and tragedy. These characters, though often relegated to supporting roles, showcased Sal's ability to bring intensity and depth to every performance. His versatility extended into Dino, 1957, a drama about a juvenile delinquent's attempt at reform, and The Gene Krupa Story, 1959, where he stepped into the shoes of the legendary jazz drummer. Sal not only acted but also learned to play drums for authenticity, demonstrating a commitment to craft that critics admired. He even sang in the film, blending his musical and acting talents into a seamless performance. Yet despite this range, typecasting limited him. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, his film opportunities had dwindled. One of his more unusual credits was Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971, where he played an ape hidden behind prosthetics, symbolic of how far his career had slipped from the promise of his teenage years. Still, Sal found a second home on the stage. In 1975, he starred in the play P.S. Your Cat is Dead, portraying a bisexual thief. The role, raw and unapologetic, earned him critical praise and gave him the financial backing to prepare his first directorial project, one that he would never live to complete. On stage, free from Hollywood's rigid casting system, Sal flourished. Music remained another passion throughout his career. His debut single Start Moving had exploded in 1957, selling over 1 million copies. With his easy smile, slick dance moves, and warm voice, he became a teen idol, drawing comparisons to Elvis Presley and Ricky Nelson. Songs like Lasting Love and Party Time added to his popularity, and he performed on television variety shows that showcased his star appeal. For a moment, Sal Mineo was not just an actor, but a full-fledged pop sensation. But as rumors of his sexuality spread, record contracts dried up. Television appearances became rarer, and his music career, so full of early promise, was quietly sidelined by an industry unwilling to embrace an openly bisexual star. Even so, these forgotten contributions highlight the full scope of Sal's talent. He was not only an actor but also a singer, a musician, and a stage performer who refused to be limited by Hollywood's narrow vision. If the industry had allowed him greater freedom, Sal Mineo might have become one of the most dynamic entertainers of his generation. Instead, his music and stage work now serve as reminders of a man who, despite being pushed aside, never stopped creating. Sal Mineo's death, conspiracies that refuse to fade. Even after a conviction was handed down, questions about Sal Mineo's murder never disappeared. Many believed the official story didn't add up. Witnesses described a white or Latino man fleeing the scene, yet a black man was convicted. This gap fueled endless speculation. Some suggested Mineo had stumbled into a drug deal in West Hollywood, an area then rife with gangs and narcotics. Others suspected his death was part of a string of similar stabbings, hinting at a possible serial killer. And still darker whispers claimed Hollywood itself wanted the case buried to avoid scandal tied to Mineo's sexuality. What is clear is that media bias painted his murder as a gay tragedy, overshadowing the real mystery and denying him the justice he deserved. Sal Mineo's story is both heartbreaking and inspiring. He was a victim of an era that punished authenticity, yet also a pioneer who dared to live with honesty in a world built on illusions. From his unforgettable role as Plato in Rebel Without a Cause to his courageous decision to reveal Hollywood's hidden truths, Sal showed a bravery that cost him dearly, but paved the way for others. His life reminds us that visibility matters, that change often begins with those willing to stand in the fire so others can walk safely later. Today, when actors can live openly without the same fear, it is worth remembering that Sal Mineo helped make that possible. His legacy is not just about fame or scandal, but about the courage to be real. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories.